Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are actually going to discuss about the chapter 7.01 because we have not studied it yet. So we are going to study the light, rays and waves 7.01. Before going to the topic, you must have your book near to your table so that you can look in your book and can see the main point which I have highlighted. Okay. So let's start this chapter, light rays and wave. Okay students, so basically we have a different type of light sources. For example, as a source of light we can take the example of sun, we can take the example of lamp, we can take the example of laser and the glowing TV screen. Basically they all emit, or we can say that these all things basically send out their own light. So those substances which actually emit their own light, so they are called luminous. However, there are some objects which are non-luminous. You can see them only because of the daylight or the another light. They just reflect light, and some of it basically goes into your eyes. So for example, if we have the example of a white page, a white A4 page, so basically the white part reflects the most of the light and it looks so bright. However, the black, if something is written, in the form of words or like that, so the black letters actually absorb nearly all the light striking them, and they reflect back little light and look dark. Basically, for example, I have also given you example previously that we usually go for, whenever we do paint in our home, so we go for white usually. So basically the purpose behind using the white color is just because it's quite soft, it actually reflects all the light, it does not absorb any type of negativity. Whereas if we look at the black color, so it absorbs all the light frequencies, which make it much more negative, and you feel very dark when there is something black around you. Okay. And most of the, basically we have two different type of surfaces. We have a smooth surface and we have we can say regular or irregular surfaces. So most of the surfaces, when they're uneven or contain particles, so they usually scatter the light. As a result, they reflect all the light in all the directions, and this process is called the diffusion or the reflection of diffusion, or we can say that reflection diffusion. However, mirrors basically are usually smooth and they're shiny, so whenever they reflect light, the reflection is called regular because the mirror is smooth and it's shiny. The surface of the mirror is smooth and shiny. So that's why whenever the mirror will be reflecting light, so the reflection would be called as regular. Whereas if we look at the transparent material, for example, we have the examples of glass and water. So it basically, for example, glass and water, it actually let the light pass right through them. They actually transmit the light. So all the transparent materials have the property to transmit the light. So the glass or water actually let the light pass through them. Okay students, now let's have a look at the features of the light. Basically there are different features of the light which we have to study in this unit. So the feature of the light include that the number one feature is that, which is quite important as well, that the light basically is the form of radiation. This means that all the light radiates, or we can say that all the light spreads out from its source. And in diagram, as you can see, for example, you are having a book, so just look at page number 140. In diagram you can see that the lines usually are represented as rays, and we usually show the light in the form of rays. So light basically is a form of radiation, and usually it radiates out from the source. For example, I actually gave you the example of bulbs and TV screen. So from all these surfaces the light actually emits out, or we can say that spreads out. The next is the feature which is quite important as well, that light actually travels in a straight line. You can see in your book that, or we can also have example of sun, that whenever we look at any picture, it usually tells us that the light of the sun beam or the laser beam, it actually travels in the straight line. For example, if we take the example of laser, so you have seen that the laser, when you just point out the laser or just press the button of the laser, so the light actually which emits from the laser, it's continuous plus it's quite straight as well, which actually shows that light actually travels in the straight line. So this was a very interesting property of the light. Moving toward the next property, and we have the next properties, which is that the light actually transfers energy. Energy basically is needed to produce light. Material usually gain the energy when they absorb the light. For example, we have the example of solar cell. The solar cell basically uses the solar energy in form of sunlight, and it produces the electricity. Then we have the example of light that for example, we have many other examples like that, not only the solar cells. Then we are moving toward our next point, which is that the light travel as waves. It is one of the most important property, because it is not actually proved that whether the light travels in a form of wave or in any other form, or in form of photon as well. So there are different theories which have been given by different scientists, but we are not still sure about that what is the nature of the light. Okay, but the next point is that the light actually travel in form of waves. So light actually radiates from its source rather as ripples spread across the surface of pond. However, in case of light, the ripples are very tiny, vibrating, and electric forces. Light waves have wavelength of less than 1,000 of millimeter. Okay, so for example, we can see that some of the scientists says that the light actually travels in form of small tiny energy particles, and these particles also called photons. So we have two contrasting theories basically. One says that the light actually travel in form of waves, and the other one says that the light actually travel in form of tiny energy packets, which are called photons. The next property of the light, which is quite important as well and quite interesting as well, that the light actually can travel through empty surface. For example, we can say that the electric and the magnetic ripples do not need any material to travel through. This is why light can reach us from the sun and the stars as well. The next point is that the light is the fastest thing there is. For example, if we look at the vacuum, so basically vacuum is a surface where nothing is present, not even oxygen. So light actually travels 3 lakh kilometer per hour. Nothing can travel faster than this. For example, we can take the example of lightning. In the phenomena of lightning, we can observe the light, very firstly, but the sound actually comes later. So lightning is one of the biggest example of this process, which actually shows that light is the fastest thing. Nothing can travel faster than light. The speed of light basically seems to be a universal speed limit. So these were the properties and feature of the light. Okay, now let's talk about the wavelength and the color. When the light actually enters the eye, so our brain senses different wavelengths as of different colors. The wavelength basically range from 0.0004 millimeter, which shows actually the violet light, and it ranges up to 0.0007 millimeters, which actually shows the red light. And the white light basically is made up of all the wavelengths which are present in this range. Most of the sources emit a mixture of the wavelength. However, laser emit light of a single wavelength and color. Light like this is called monochromatic light. For example, you can see the laser, the red color laser. So the laser has a single wavelength, and the light is also contained for example, in laser usually the laser is of red color. The light which comes out from the laser is of red color. So it shows that it's a monochromatic light because it just have only one color. Chrome mean color. So this was about the wavelength and the color of the light. So we have studied about the light and the waves. This was the introductory paragraph, we can say that, which we can also say that,, this was the introduction of this chapter. So, we can also say that, this was the introduction of this chapter. So, we can also say that, this was the introduction of this chapter. So, we can also say that, this was the introduction of this chapter. So, we can also say that, this was the introduction of this chapter. So, we can also say that, this was the introduction of this chapter. So, chapter number 7, at the end of chapter number 7, you can see that there are some questions which are given at the page 141 if we look at the fundamental physics book. So there are total 6 questions. Try to do at your home. These are very easy, and do not copy the answer from the back, and you can email your queries after listening the lecture. Thank you so very much.